shoot. It was like the boys' club yesterday on, and I said it out loud, and Jeff kind of made fun of me.
Well, they liked it. I got an email after, and they were all, yeah, we had fun with the boys. It's like, good.
Yeah, well, so somebody needs a bumper. Let's hear it for the boys.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, see if I can show you or Maria how to plug an iPad into your system.
Yeah, I would do it.
That's what I do. It's a program on the iPad called Soundbite.
Oh, okay.
And it will set up all of you just put it in, you put in either from your music collection on the iPad, you just put it in, you can adjust where you want it to start, and it just does its thing. Oh. So then Jeff will be really upset.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody else has bumpers.
It'll be just even more of a train wreck than it is usually.
Yeah, but everybody needs a train wreck.
It's awesome.
Yeah, everybody needs a train wreck, and you guys do a great train wreck, so. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
I'll pull you in after I introduce you, and then you'll be on the entire time unless you want to mute yourself for whatever reason. All right, let's get you on mute, please. Now it's going to be one of those pull it over. There we go. All right. And in 3, 2, 1.
Hello? Are you ready? Yes. Then we'll begin.
Well, the others are at Wintersing, but I have a fabulous guest with me today, so stay tuned, grab a drink, and join us. It's Monday Morning Catholic, episode number 61. Mercy, O God, have mercy on us. Send down your mercy to set us free. Mercy, O God, have mercy on us. Send down your mercy to us. Yes, it's the season of Lent, and I got yelled at last week for using a song with the H word in it, so I gave you something else today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Monday Morning Catholic Podcast. I am your host and moderator, Joanne Mercier, and while the others are at Wintersing, and they will give us a full report next week when they return, I happen to have a fabulous guest with me today. She is one of the regulars on the lovely train wreck of a podcast known as Catholic Weekend, which we have talked about here. And she is, in her own right, a budding author, and she's got a blog and all kinds of things. She's known in the blogosphere and the interwebs as the Catholic Drinky, Miss Sarah Vabulous. Good morning, Sarah. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks, Joanne. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, I had to use your intro music from Catholic Weekend.
That's my song. I'm all for it. It's the ringtone on my cell phone when people call me.
Is it really?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, my. You're just as bad as I am. That's a good thing. I put out a call this week for folks because my other 3 lovely panelists, see, we have a thing here in Rhode Island every year called Wintersing, and it's a chance for musicians in the Diocese of Providence to get together and look over new music, have evening prayer, fellowship, eating. There's all kinds of things involved. And it's a labor intensive, and all 3 of the panelists are on the NPM board of directors. So they're all out doing Wintersing when we record this on Sunday for Monday morning. So I was like, I'm alone, and I don't think everybody wants to hear me. So I put out the word on Facebook, and Sarah was the only one who came forward and said, sure, I'll do this.
Hey, it sounded like a blast, and your plea on Facebook, it just tugged at my heartstrings, so here we are.
Tugged at your heartstrings, oh, well. I'm glad I could do that. And yes, we are having a little bit of robotic latency right now, folks. So please excuse us. We are assuming everybody in Atlanta, where Sarah is based, is watching House of Cards. So it's one of those things that we're just going to have to put up with, and we appreciate you just being aware of that.
Yeah, thanks, Comcast.
Yeah, I have Verizon Fios. So.
Oh, you're lucky.
Well, the only choices I have here in Rhode Island are Fios and Cox.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Cox Communications, you do not know what I want to say about Cox Communications. So
well, we're getting Google Fiber here.
Yay! When is that showing up?
Oh, they just agreed to it maybe a month ago. So lots of infrastructure to build out, but it's coming, and it's coming to where I live. So thumbs up.
Yes, and that will straighten things out a little bit. The Catholic Weekend podcast had a little problem this weekend as well. All of a sudden, you just started seeing no sound and looking like that.
Oh, yeah. It's a thing with Google, too. The Google Hangouts just sometimes bail out sometimes, but I have to change my settings. It's technology. It's still very unperfect.
Yeah, that's the problem, but we love it anyway, and we early adopters keep pushing other people to using it, so the more they use it, the more they're going to fill up the bandwidth, so it's our fault. So our folks here at Monday Morning Catholic don't know anything about you, so we'd like to learn a little bit about you before we begin. So, in 25 words or less, no, I'll give you a little longer than that. What can you tell us about yourself?
Well, I live in Atlanta. I'm a lifelong Atlanta resident, except for when I went to college. I went to St. Mary's in Notre Dame, Indiana. I graduated with a degree in communications, a minor in theology. After that, I worked for the U.S. House of Representatives for 3 years, and then I moved into working in social media. So I'm a social media consultant, but after hours, I'm a writer, a home brewer, and a beer evangelist. So I love to go out, have a nice pint, and talk to people at the bar. And a lot of times a great conversation comes up where I can input my Catholic faith and just try to talk to people about God if they're open to it.
So talk about working in the trenches.
Yeah,
work in the trenches.
Yeah, but you know what? It's so much fun, and God is just so good. And that said, there's been some tough conversations, some battles that I have not won, but I know that there were some seeds planted, and at the very least, you can be confident in that.
Well, that's good. I was sort of there when all of this started unfolding back in 2010. In fact, on my drink today, I have your little Catholic drinky, glass
Awesome.
here.
I've got my Tervis.
She's growing up in the world now.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to talk a little bit more about how Catholic Drinky came about and how, what's all of this stuff, because, rumor has it you've got a book.
I do. Can you believe it?
I know. It's like everybody's writing books these days, and I'm sitting here writing fiction.
Hey, whatever. Yeah, so Liguori Publications contacted me last year and invited me to CERN whether I'd be willing to write a book with them. And after some great conversations with some priests and just prayerfully considering it, I decided to move forward. So I wrote a book last year, and it'll be out on June 1st. And you can pre-order it now on Amazon or at Liguori.com. So I'm really thrilled, and just honestly, it's been quite a whirlwind process. I never in a million years thought that Catholic Drinky would actually become legitimate.
You see, this is how God works.
Yeah.
It's what you thought was what was actually. We may as well talk about it now before we get into anything else, because we're on it. This was actually a throwaway line at a convention.
It was a joke. It was a pure joke, and I even kind of just started thinking, okay, well, this would be just fun, tongue-in-cheek. I had no idea it would catch on the way that it has, and that that God would really use this to affect real lives and real hearts, and mine first and foremost. And so it's just been a lot of fun, from the day at the CNMC when Mac Barron was making fun of Catholic Foodie and saying that SQPN would never support a blog named Catholic Drinky. Then I just decided, hey, well, you know what? I'm going to be that. And here we are, 4.5 years later.
God works in mysterious ways, and working through Mac Barron is extremely mysterious. So, and for those of you who don't know Mac Barron, he and his wife, Catherine, have a podcast called Catholic in a Small Town. It's from the folks at SQPN. All of that's going to be in our honorable mention section today on the website. So I'll put all of these lovely little links for you. But yeah, it was a throwaway on an opening keynote, and you ran with it. I liked Missalette Impossible myself, but I couldn't figure out what to do with it. I tried a couple of things with it, but it didn't work. But
that would have been funny too.
Well, I believe in a God that has a sense of humor, along with mercy and judgment and all that. But I know God has a sense of humor, so that's why it appeals to me. That kind of stuff. And it appealed to you, and look what it started as a blog, correct?
Correct. Well, yeah, as a blog and as really just on Twitter, and then from there I grew it and put stuff on Instagram, created a Facebook page, just sort of spiraled. Literally. You also in to Lino Rulik. I can't forget about Lino. He's writing the foreword to my book, and Lino really encouraged me that weekend as well. We were talking, and he started up making fun of me because I was there at a Catholic New Media conference and didn't have a blog, didn't have anything, and I helped him pick out a drink at a bar one night. So, well, why don't you write about being Catholic and how much you know about alcohol? And I'm thinking, I can't make that work. And then the next day, Catholic Drinky, that name came out, and I said, all right, God, I get it.
Wow, that would talk about.
It's a miracle.
I mean, it's one of those. I don't believe in coincidence.
No, absolutely not.
I've said that a bunch of times. I don't believe in coincidence. It's all, God incidences, and it's either we pay attention to it or we don't. You paid attention. And look what
I tried to do that. Yeah.
In 5 years, look what's happened because you paid attention.
Yeah, just keep saying yes, and you never know where the Holy Spirit's going to take you. I mean, you could be writing a book right now too. It's crazy.
Nah. I tend to decompose rather than compose, so that's usually how I work. But I'm so glad you're here today, because now you get a chance to put the Catholic Drinky into another realm, which is what we do here at Monday Morning Catholic. I started Monday Morning Catholic because I had heard a lot of podcasts opening up the scriptures before Sunday. But I didn't hear any that took the Sunday experience and opened it up from the other side. So after you've heard the readings and after you've heard the homilies, so what's next? So that's what we try to do here. We take a look back every week at the previous weekend's liturgies and try to make some sense of everything that we see, hear, and sometimes smell. And since it's Lent, it's a good time for the incense to come out. We've branched out a little into looking at, because most of us are musicians or liturgists on the panel, we look at ritual, we look at church music, technology, evangelization, just about anything else I can come up with. Because I'm also into pop culture. I couldn't get them to do American Idol with me, but, what can I say? I'm just,
I'm just wild about Harry.
I love Harry Connick Jr.
Oh.
And Catholic that he is has really helped to turn that show around, because at least now he's doing, he's able to, I watch him very carefully. If you have a young contestant on, like say under 18, and they're singing inappropriate words, the first thing he will go at them is, do you understand what you're singing? Wow. It's the very first thing he goes at them with, which is really interesting. So he's almost the moral compass on the show.
Yeah, that's great. We need more of that in this culture that we have right now. I mean, it is just, kids are growing up faster than ever and in ways that they shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly. So we do a little of everything here. So what I just tell people is to grab their favorite cup of whatever, and I'm drinking water.
You and me both.
Okay, so there you go. Full disclosure. And sometimes we end up with a train wreck, and sometimes we don't. But you're used to train wrecks. So,
yes.
so I'll try not to have it be a train wreck. So what we're going to do is start with our first segment, which is... How does it look from your side of the world? This is feedback that we get every week from the other side of life. Hopefully, I don't know about you guys, but I beg for feedback. I'm like, somebody tell us. You never. Well, they read some feedback this week.
Oh yeah. So I say never, but it's like super rare. Once a quarter.
Well, I get some of the same people myself, but that's okay. But this week, this is the last word on last week's word, and this week we have Tiffany from Buffalo. She's one of our regulars, and I did ask for feedback from a non-snowy part of the world, but I guess I'm out of luck because she's in Buffalo. So, but she wanted to send us some feedback from last week anyway because her parish has a new pastor. And she wanted to put down her initial impressions of him. Now, this got interesting. This makes me a little bit nervous, but I think we're going to be okay.
Poor guy.
Well, either poor guy or this is great. So let's see. We've seen him just Ash Wednesday and the first Sunday of Lent. But in her opinion, he is an excellent homilist. She says that because the congregation has been rapt with attention for his first two homilies, and I've overheard people talking about them as they exit the church. Impressive, to be sure, and his style, concise. These homilies have been short, no longer than 7 minutes each, she would estimate, and very personal. So that's interesting. I remember when I was in grad school, I took a homiletic course because I wanted to understand what they did as a liturgist, because when you try to understand every part of the liturgy, but I would never give a homily in my life, but I wanted to understand what went into it. And it is, I think, the most thankless job in the entire Catholic Church, because you have to take everything you've just heard, open it up, and apply it in 10 minutes. And it's like 10 minutes?
Or
Okay.
20.
Well, you know, the most interesting ones can go 20 and not make you feel like it's 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are the guys who go 20, and by minute 2, you are looking at your watch.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
The ones where they talk in circles. It's like, okay, Father, or it's usually the deacon who does that, or they just put too many topics in. Like, you can tell they want to make such an effort, and, you know, instead of talking about 5 things, talk about 2 things.
Mm-hmm. And I can tell the different homiletic styles, too. So if some of them had been to a certain seminary, now I've been for a while, so if some of them have been to a certain seminary, or cemetery, depending on which.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever. You can tell the style
Mm-hmm.
of professor that they had. Deacons have a different style in my parts because they all learned depending on which school they went to. And some of them didn't get a degree, they just were schooled in it. So
Mm-hmm.
you can tell. I had 2 deacons this past weekend, and one is very methodical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like scripture, story,
Yep.
expression, story,
Yeah.
all the time. I've heard him about 3 or 4 times now. It's exactly the same. The other one is a little bit more off the cuff and a little bit more, you know, he's got his papers there, but he's just a little bit looser and much more grandfatherly,
Oh, that's cool.
which is cool.
Yeah.
So that's okay. So it depends. So she said last Sunday he started by saying, I've been thinking about what I would say to you right now for the past 2 months. Apparently that's how long it was before he got there. And he let us know that he's very excited to be with us and that he would share his story with us to the priesthood and to our parish little by little each week throughout Lent, as well as his short reflections on the scriptures, so that we can try and grow in holiness together during this time. Now, that's a very good idea.
Yeah.
You know, he's got not just a theme of the day, he's got a theme of the season.
That's really cool. Talk
Yeah.
about thinking ahead.
Yeah. I really like that. She said he wove humorous anecdotes throughout, and I have to say, I do love this sort of relatable style. It's very easy to pay attention when you're learning about a person's individual story of faith, sort of like when you read a spiritual memoir rather than a textbook. Well, I like the analogy she gave there.
Yeah, me too.
So she says, that is what is new with me and my parish. It's an exciting time. I'm looking forward to his next homily and to the rest of Lent. Well, Tiffany, I hope so too. I hope, you're in Buffalo. You should know how this snow goes. Please send me any tips on how to deal with it. Although I do know somebody here in Massachusetts who is actually bottling the snow and sending it to other people.
I heard about that.
Yes, you can buy his snow.
Yeah, it was on like Fox News or something. I was dying. It's so hilarious.
Well, like I said earlier before we started all of this, it's a little long now for us, and we're just, we're kind of done with.
Do you want to build a snowman?
We're done with it.
I think it's God punishing us for allowing our children to watch Frozen on repeat.
True. I think didn't they arrest Elsa somewhere?
So, yeah, they indicted her or something. Just so crazy.
Yikes. Well, if you see Elsa, if she shows up in your homily somewhere or whatever, if you've got any kind of feedback for us, we'd really appreciate it. Yes, we beg for it. And you can send it to mondaymorningcatholic@gmail.com. That's our official address. You can put it up on our Facebook page, which gets a lot of traffic during the week, facebook.com/Monday Morning Catholic. You can put it in the comment box at mondaymorningcatholic.net, the website, which is still being revamped because I have no time. I'm still working on it. And you can probably understand what little time you have to take on a big task like that, Sarah. Would you do it in one weekend, one time? Would you lock yourself up or something?
I built a friend's website in a weekend last weekend.
Yeah. Actually, what I need to do is probably hire Sarah to do the website, and that'll, fix that, so we can have some more stuff on there. Or
But here's my number, so call me maybe.
You can call us at the lovely feedback line, 774-955-0659. We'll repeat all that at the end of the podcast as usual. But I know this is what y'all come to hear every week, so let's get to it.
Do you hear what I hear?
Do you hear what I hear for the second Sunday of Lent? We all hear the same readings most of the time, and that'll play out in the next couple of weeks. But the homiletic interpretations are definitely all over the place. So we are in Cycle B readings again this week, because I know next week when we hit the third Sunday of Lent, some of you will be going back into Cycle A. Well, some of us will be staying in Cycle B, and I don't know how we're going to approach that yet. I forgot how we did that last year, so I'm going to have to go back and see how we tackled that. Oh, I know why. Last year was Cycle A,
so
we didn't have to tackle it. This year we have to figure out how to tackle that. So we will try not to make the show any longer than it needs to be. Okay, but for this week, the Cycle B readings were Genesis 22 with the familiar story of Abraham and Isaac. This was the Easter, that you find this as the second reading also at the Easter Vigil, but this is the short version. They take out all of the dialogue in between with Isaac and Abraham saying, why'd you bring all that? Why are we going up here? They take all that out and they just they get to the good stuff. Psalm 116 was the proper psalm for this week. I will walk before the Lord in the land of the living. However, some folks are still using the seasonal psalms, and I did put last week the Joncas seasonal psalms up for folks. Of course, again, there's Psalm 51, 91, and 130. This week I will come up with probably another composer's 51, 91, and 130. These are all things from musicians who can put that stuff away for next year and think about that. Romans 8 was the second reading, and this part of Romans 8 happens to be the beginning of my life verses. Those of you in the Protestant realm will know exactly what I'm talking about. Catholics are all going, what the heck? I went to a non-denominational Christian college for my undergrad, and everybody was about picking their life verses. Well, I had a life section because I just happened to Romans 8 from 31 on. If God is for us, who can be against us? That is my absolute favorite part of Scripture. It's so much hope that God will never, ever, nothing will separate us from the love of God. So, I mean, we've used it for everything. We've used it for our wedding. We used it for both my parents' funerals, my husband's mother's funeral. I mean, it's just the life verses for me. So I was kind of happy to hear them. And then, of course, I'm sitting there listening to different lectors going, okay. Oh, that's really good. Oh, you read that well. So I'm a little critical. Sorry. I tend to be at times. I'm a liturgist. Shoot me. And Mark 9. We are finally out of the first chapter of Mark. I am so happy because for the last 4 weeks it's been chapter 1. We're into chapter 9 because of the Transfiguration. And again, Mark is our lovely scripture equivalent of Dragnet, where it's just the facts.
Oh, yeah.
It's completely just the facts. Nothing else gets in the way. So you don't even hear the great, Lord, it's so great. You do hear that, but you don't get the whole beatific that Matthew or Luke can kind of, drum up a little bit more. He's just this is it. There's the voice. That's it. Done. So, usually at this point, we talk about the homilies we've heard and see how closely or not our homilists got to the scripture readings and any other agenda they happen to have. So, Sarah, you had said you did bring one with you today, and so I will let the guest go first.
Oh, hey, thanks. Yeah, so I really enjoyed our homily today. Father focused on Genesis and the Gospel. Sorry, I know you are a big fan of Romans, but he didn't really address that for today's homily. But he talked about how he started out by saying how he loves to get his hair cut because he gets head massage and all of this stuff. But then he says reality sets in when you sit down in the chair with fluorescent lights and you just start to pick yourself apart. Oh, I look so old. Oh, I'm so pale. Oh, I have less hair than I had before. This and that. And he said that it's like allowing Jesus in the Transfiguration to shine a light upon you during Lent, to look at some of the things that you really should change about yourself, and so to ask Jesus, especially during this liturgical season, to work within you in order to make some of those changes of that brokenness that each of us as a human has, and to really focus on that in prayer, in going to confession, in really just entering into the season. And I just thought it was just a beautiful example of really how the Transfiguration can be talked about in a different way than we look at it when we celebrate it in August, right? Like, this is just such a different point of view because we are in the Lenten season. We need to come at it with the whole idea of our fallen nature.
Yeah, it does take on a different, because of the Lenten season and because of this time of retreat and renewal for all of us, it does take on a different flavor. The other thing is unless it falls on a Sunday in August, you don't hear this.
Right.
Only the people during the week will get to hear it again. So every year, at least for the second Sunday of Lent, no matter where you are, you're going to hear this, but it's usually in the context. I like the fact that he wanted to shine a light. It's like that fluorescent light. It's like Jesus shining a light on us at this time. I like that.
Yeah, it was just really cool the whole time. I'm like, yeah, way to go, Father. He kept it, probably about 7 or 8 minutes. It was perfect, and just the whole congregation was very engaged with him. So
now, what parish was this?
The Cathedral of Christ the King here in Atlanta.
Oh, so right in the cathedral. You belong there?
I do. I attend the cathedral. I live about a quarter of a mile from it. So.
Oh, wow. That's kind of cool. So you do get to hear the Archbishop, a lot, I guess?
Yes, I do.
Ah, yes. I like Archbishop Gregory.
Yeah, he's great. He's just so friendly.
He's a musician. I remember him coming to our National Association of Pastoral Musicians conventions when he was a bishop. And I think was it out in Illinois, I think?
Yeah, he was in Belleville before he came to Atlanta.
Right. So I remember him coming to that, and then he, I guess, became the Archbishop of Atlanta. It became too busy, and then we ended up with Cardinal DiNardo as our Episcopal.
I think that's okay. It's a nice trade.
Excuse me?
That's a good trade.
Good trade? Okay. Well, I like him, but you don't hear much about him anymore. I mean, he was doing a lot of liturgy stuff and music before, and, well, you know, I guess that's okay. I mean, you guys like him down there, and hopefully I will get to Atlanta in June. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm trying to get there, hopefully by train or by car. I don't fly.
Oh, right. You don't.
I don't fly, but train or car is good. But it's nice that a cathedral parish is so different from a regular parish, not just because the bishop shows up there a lot, but because it's more of an inner city type of place, I would say. Would you say the same thing there?
Not necessarily, just because of where it is here in Atlanta. We have a basilica that's down in Midtown, and then we have another big church downtown, and so those sort of get the more inner city. We're in the Buckhead area of Atlanta. It's the fancy pants part of Atlanta, so...
Yeah, my friend's daughter and her husband lives in Buckhead.
Yeah.
So I have not seen it, but I hear.
It's very nice. I'm very lucky to live here.
Interesting that the cathedral is not in downtown Atlanta then.
Well, Buckhead used to be really the main part of Atlanta. You know, Atlanta's just so odd in so many ways because we have lots of different neighborhoods. And, you know, really when it had to rebuild after the Civil War, since the entire city, you know, was burnt to the ground. Buckhead was really the heart for a while until they could get other parts of the city up and running again.
Okay, that's a help to us Northerners who have no idea, because most of our cathedrals are in inner city,
right.
So they look a lot different than a normal parish would.
Yes, you just have to, I know it sounds crazy, but you have to think about what it was like here in the late 1800s, and our cathedral was built in, let's see, just turned 75, like 2 years ago, so it's still very new. It used to be that the Savannah Diocese covered all of Georgia, and then a lot of Catholics started moving here to Atlanta, and so they felt like they had to build a place here, so then we became the diocese, the major diocese in the state of Georgia.
Oh, okay. So there's 2 dioceses in Georgia then?
Yes, we have the Archdiocese of Atlanta, and then we have the Diocese of Savannah.
Okay. All right. See, I'm learning myself. See, around here, a whole state can be a diocese.
Oh, yeah. Well, Georgia's huge, so it's very helpful to have those relationships and having the different dioceses. Because the drive to Savannah is about 4 and a half hours, so it'd be really hard for a bishop to cover the whole state. You know, going down to South Georgia, almost to the Florida line, could be a 5-hour drive, so it's a big ask to cover that much. And that's from Atlanta. You know, we go 2 hours north, so we're looking at like a 6-hour drive from one end to the other. So that's too much for a bishop.
Yeah, that's big. That's big, and I thought Bishop Coyne now had a large diocese, being 4.5 hours up and down probably. But around here, you can hit a diocese I can drive from where I am. I live in the Diocese of Providence. If I drive less, I can drive 15 minutes east and be in the Diocese of Fall River.
Oh.
I drive 30 minutes northwest and be in the Diocese of Worcester. I can drive 40 minutes west and be in the Diocese of Norwich, Connecticut. And I can drive, which I do, 50 minutes northeast and be in the Archdiocese of Boston.
Crazy.
Yeah.
See, you guys have a lot more population. You know, here we're in the city, we've got 7 million or so in the city and surrounding suburbs. But anywhere else, like Georgia, I mean, it's farmland, not a lot of big cities. So.
Yeah, I think the state of Rhode Island has 1 million people.
Yeah.
Something nuts like that. we're it's just a small. Massachusetts is much bigger.
Yeah.
But, okay, we're train wrecking here. We're gonna move.
That's okay. We're talking about geography. I love it.
True, but that's all right. Now, as I said, this past weekend I was working, so it's kind of hard. I'm trying to listen to 3 different homilies and worrying about, because it's Catholic Charities weekend here in the Northeast, and my mind is not on the homilies. My mind is on, okay, and I now have to get up as soon as this is over, and I have to bring the microphone over, and I have to make sure that I get the DVD in, so we get the Cardinal Archbishop's, message to everybody. So I heard 3 homilies and spaced them all, basically. I can remember bits and pieces of them, but I'm not even going to try that. So Linda Reed, lovely Linda from our panel, sent me our pastor's homily at St. Thomas, where we belong. So I'm going to give you that one, even though that one, too, talks about Catholic Charities. Now, this is a phenomenon, I think, in New England, because I don't remember it being this early growing up. But somewhere in the beginning of this century, they started shifting it into Lent, because I think they felt that, since people were giving up and giving alms, why not do the charity appeals during the season of Lent, or at least start them? Mm-hmm. So the phenomena is, we have somewhere in Lent, it will start. And this was the week it started, because no one wanted to do it last week because of all the RCIA stuff that's involved. So they figure, Transfiguration Sunday, we can do this. So that's what's going on here. And it depends where you are. In the Archdiocese of Boston, we all had a 2-minute video that was to be shown. So I was playing tech head, the equipment, going over there and making sure that the everyone could see Cardinal Sean, and it was a lovely, concise video that came at the end of a homily. And you could do one of 2 things. You could either, your priest or your deacons could give their own homily and then segue into it, or you could listen to a 5-minute homily from Cardinal Sean and then go into the DVD.
It's a good deal.
Yeah, they left it up to the parishes. You could do one or the other. So our particular collaborative, because we're in a collaborative of 3 parishes with 1 pastor.
Man.
Well, it's the collaborative. At another time, I'll explain the collaborative system in the Archdiocese of Boston. It's quite the endeavor, but I think it's a model that I think will catch on for the foreseeable future. So with having the collaborative, we just decided we would do it that way. So all masses had the exact same thing. But here in Providence, they're not as sophisticated. So all the priests have to give the homily and the pitch at the same time. So my pastor today in Providence said, in this season of Lent, we are called to fast, pray, and give alms. We are also encouraged to understand the ideal of making a sacrifice on behalf of others. Now, none of us are called to make the ultimate sacrifice like we hear in the first 2 readings. It's amazing to see Abraham in our first reading willing to sacrifice his son, the one he had waited so long for, and yet he had such faith in God that he was willing to do it. Now, I'll put an aside here. One of the homilies I heard went and talked about that specific scriptural what word am I looking for? Device that was being used. Because in the same way as you hear Abraham earlier on in the chapter in Genesis saying about Sodom and Gomorrah, if you can find 20 righteous people, 15 righteous people, 10 righteous people, it's the same thing with Isaac. Which son? I have 2 sons. Which one are the, they use the same device to sort of get the reader to understand this is he's in a relationship with the person he's talking to, so there's a bit of give and take here, so this is the kind of relationship we should be modeling with God. We should be able to talk like this as if we were talking to another person. Okay, back to it. Paul in the letter to the Romans reminds us that God allowed his son to die so that nothing would separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. Again, favorite reading, love it. Now I am sure, this is my pastor speaking, now I am sure that at times my mother was willing to sacrifice one of her sons. He's one of 5. Usually after we had done something to get in trouble, but in reality, she never would. God is not asking us to sacrifice our children, our spouses, or anything else, but he is challenging us to sacrifice some of our hard-earned money to support those less fortunate than ourselves. On the second Sunday of Lent in all parishes throughout our diocese, the Catholic Charity Appeal is taking place, and the in-pew solicitation phase begins today. What they do is they put envelopes in the pews, and if people want to make a pledge at that point, they just have to check the box, and when the preparation of the gift starts and the offertory baskets go by, they just drop it in. If they're ready to put money in, fine. If they're not, if they're putting in large amounts, they can spread it over a period of time. That's how it works in the Diocese of Providence. The Charity Appeal is the way in which we can both make a sacrifice for others and to also give alms to assist those in need. The appeal helps to finance many worthy endeavors of our diocese, from the education of young men in the seminary to helping the elderly in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. The appeal helps to keep our Catholic schools running and assists in campus ministry. Something now that is dear to my pastor because he was chaplain at the University of Rhode Island for 12 years. So he's all about campus ministry. The last 2 years, I am pleased to say that we've exceeded our goal. And it's true, we have exceeded the goal that the diocese gives us. And what happens both in Providence and in the Archdiocese of Boston is if you go over that goal, whatever you go over that goal comes back to the parish.
Oh, cool.
So there's an incentive.
Yeah.
To give. So, and we've gotten money back both in Providence and I believe in our parishes in the Archdiocese. Let's see. In our gospel today, Jesus is transfigured before his apostles and tells them that the Son of Man will rise from the dead. The apostles are unsure of what he means, but it won't be till after the resurrection that they will truly understand that his transfiguration was for a reason, so that the apostles could go out and transform the world. The challenge given to the apostles has been passed on to us during the Lenten season. May we pray for the success of the Charity Appeal. May we fast from some luxury so that we can give alms to the poor and needy, so that our sacrifice as a community of faith may bring about the transformation of the world. Not a bad way to tie all that together.
No, that's great.
Yeah, I give him credit. He writes his homilies and usually sends them to Linda. So we have at least one that looks, like a complete thought. But like I said, I give these guys credit for taking all of what they have to do and try to make it fit with the scriptures. And like you say, some of them have a circular way of approaching it, and others don't. And others are very good at it. That was a very good way to tie things together, although I know him well enough that he would have expanded on quite a few more things if he didn't have to do an impew thing, because right after he gives his homily, then it's supposed to be, now it's your turn, fill out your envelopes. And if because of our weather it's been they mentioned that there was going to be snow, again, 4 to 8 inches. And I heard my associate pastor remark this morning, yeah, but it's not starting till later. Where is everybody today? And that's what happens around here now. Everybody disappears. They don't go to church because they don't want to get caught in anything again. And I will make this appeal to people that I've made a couple of weeks now is, if you're living up here in the snow belt right now, our parishes are hurting because they're not making up the revenue that they're losing in the weeks, because come on, you all know it, I know it, you go the next week, it's like found money. Oh, I didn't go last week, so they don't think about putting both weeks in. We're really we could really think about it as part of your Lenten sacrifice to make sure not even to give more, but just give what you've been giving, because the snow plowing and the roof raking and the we have a cemetery in our collaborative, and the jackhammering to get the graves open all cost extra money than we would normally have to run the places. So please, folks, we can really use it right now. Don't forget us. And
I just give money. Mine automatically debits out of my account. every once a month.
See, you're one of those young people who's not afraid of technology. We do it too, by the way. My husband, we do the online giving, and
It's so nice.
it works. You put it in your budget. You set. It's like a Ronco thing. You set it and forget it.
Yeah, well, honestly, because it comes out on one of my paydays, and as far as I'm concerned, I never see it, right? So it's never an option for me to spend it on something else because immediately off to the church.
Well, there you go, and that's what we need. We need more people to do that. But I know in my generation, and I don't know if you realize, I'm considerably older than you are.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I really am. Try to add, like, let's see, 25 years maybe.
It's my parents' age, not that old.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Love it. Just keep saying that. Great. But it's now I lost my train of thought. There it went.
Just talking about getting donations.
Yeah, talking about donations. No, we do the online giving as well, and it's so easy. But people are afraid that if people don't see them putting something in the basket every week, and this is my generation and up, people are gonna be sitting there going, they're not giving anything.
Do you want to know what my parish did to combat that?
What did they do?
They printed out little cards.
All right.
I give online. So you still get to throw something in the basket.
See, I like that. If more people can do that, that would be great. And that's a great idea. I hate killing trees, but if it works, fine.
Well, they're reusable. They've laminated them, and so they put them in the pew, and they're these nice cards, and so they're there the ushers put them back after every mass, and
oh, now that's a good idea.
yeah, so they're just these permanent cards that say I give electronically, and they just go back into the pews after every mass.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Brilliant. Love it. I like that idea. Pass that along to my pastor because there are people who want that, just that security or whatever. So, yikes. So, if we're starting to talk about things liturgical, then we must be going into the next segment, known as The Right Stuff, is our segment on liturgy and rituals. And Sarah, you just served me up the best one you could have served up for me in a long time. In Sarah's blog at CatholicDrinky.com, seriously, CatholicDrinky.com, she decided to put up a little to hold hands or not to hold hands at the Our Father. Now, okay, folks, before you all start screaming and yelling from whichever side of the altar rail you're all on, let's hear what Sarah had to say first and why she said it. Go ahead, Sarah.
So yeah, I picked a little fight on the internet on Friday.
Little fight.
It was a lot of fun and just something that I really have been giving a lot of thought to over a long period of time. I gotta first put it out there. I'm single, so I often go to mass by myself, and so the idea of having to hold hands with someone else, like a stranger, while I'm praying the Our Father, I wanted to know why I felt like that wasn't a natural thing for me, and so I did some research on it and provided some really nice liturgical leadership quotes on my blog. Some are 10 years old, some are more recent, talking about what the church is really calling us to do in that moment, and that proper posture, to use really liturgical language, is in fact for us to fold our hands in front of us to be praying, because it's about us entering into a relationship with God in that moment and praising Him with the prayer that Jesus gave us. Now, a lot of people came at me and said, I understand what you're saying, but I like to hold hands with my spouse or my child. Okay, I get that. You're praying as a family. I think that's beautiful. But I don't think that we should be getting into this whole, love each other, we're all a community, let's outstretch our arms and hold hands across the aisle, and no.
Thank you.
There's a lot of other opportunity for this outside the Mass, but the Mass is a time for us to be praying and praising Jesus, because here's Jesus on the altar while we're praying Our Father. Like, the consecration has happened, like things are there, right? So Jesus is present, and we need to keep that in mind. And also, when we give the sign of peace, let's be reverent in that moment too. But that's a whole nother story.
Oh, that's a whole nother blog post.
That's a whole nother blog post, which I will get into one day when I'm feeling really brave. But I had most people came back and agreed with me that we should not be holding hands during the Our Father, to which my response was, where are you guys at my church? But also, we had a lot of people who felt like it was totally incorrect, that they like the community. Well, isn't it enough that we're surrounding Jesus on the altar, worshiping him together in that way, that we all receive the Eucharist, and that should be how we're celebrating community for those moments after, that we all have Jesus in us? And also, what really drives me batty more than anything are the people that stand here with their arms out like the priest does in the orans position. Mm-hmm. That position is meant for the priest only. Like, for the priest only. We should not be doing that at any point in the Mass. That is a way for the priest to be praying on behalf of the community, of the entire people sitting in the church in that moment. You'll notice he takes that position a number of times, but the most important time is when he's preparing the gifts before the consecration, and he's saying all those prayers. Sounds like to himself, but really he's just quietly praying, and he puts his arms out in that way because he's praying on behalf of us, those prayers that are listed, in his book to be reading. And so when people take that while we're praying the Our Father, I just want to take their hands and put them together.
Okay. All right. Now there's a couple of schools of thought there. So yeah. For what you said, most of what you said, I will do. And other people said amen. All right. I'll do that for that. But now I'm going to. All right. I'm going to dive in on this. And regular viewers and listeners to this show know that I'm a liturgist. So this is, I have fought the liturgy wars for many, many years on, do we do this, do we not do this, why can't we do this, why can't we be community, or why can't we be more reverent? So this is a big kerfuffle, if I can use that word, that I wish we didn't have to deal with. But here it is. People want to hold hands. There is nothing in the rubrics that at that point tells us to do that. Nothing. It became one of those, according to local custom, things that sort of grew. And I would suspect that it grew from retreat masses and things like that, and convention masses, of which I always tell people, when you go on retreat, you go on convention, please do not do this at home. Mm-hmm. It's really a more intimate or a more specialized, stylized, like how do you do good ritual in a ballroom type of thing, that takes on a whole nother being of itself. Well, when you're in a church, I had one pastor, and he's a friend of mine, and God love him, but he would say, now let's stretch out across the aisles, and I'd be sitting there going, not me. I'm not doing this. I don't feel comfortable doing this.
And see, that's the key right there is,
exactly. For
me, it's a distraction from my ability to enter into that prayer, to have to, I know this is going to sound so ridiculous, but am I holding their hand right? Is my hand sweating? Am I squeezing too hard? Like, these are all things that you're thinking about rather than thinking about God.
Exactly. And it's bad enough that the Roman ritual put back ritual things that people aren't picking up on right now, which is prescribed, like at the gospel. This is now prescribed for us to do. It wasn't before Roman Missal 3. It was always, people did it because the priest did it. Mm-hmm. It's like when the priest is in the Eucharistic prayer and he gets to one, especially if he's doing Eucharistic prayer 1, and he says, through Christ our Lord, and everybody goes, amen. And
amen. We're not supposed to do that.
I'm not saying, no, don't. But see, that was one of those things that was just for the proclaimer, of the gospel. But because it came up the other way, now is in the ritual. The other thing is bowing at the in the creed.
Yep.
That's there. Half the people don't know it's there. I bow. People look at me like I'm strange. And the other thing is the through my fault, through my most grievous fault. That's back. Nobody's picking up on that either in the Confiteor. So it's like, so why are we doing this when there isn't supposed to be anything? The other thing is that I saw in your blog post was the Orans position. Now, I have a couple of different feelings on that.
I did have several priests read the blog post before I published it, so I do want to at least say that I tried to do some real research instead of just like, spouting off an opinion. I did
do on the internet.
Right. I did ask priests that are from different parts of the country to read it, so that I knew that I was getting opinions from people who went to different seminaries, this and that. So I did try.
Right, but the one thing that you brought up was the priest shouldn't be doing the Orans position at that point.
Well, it was I was making an argument that maybe we should consider thinking about changing that. And you know who gave me that idea? Dr. Ed Peters in his article. Really? Yeah, and so I quoted his article. So out of that is where I said, you know what? Maybe we should consider changing that portion. So it was just a, off the cuff.
Because again, what the people are doing is responding to what the presider's doing.
Correct.
So they're just, and again, the Orans position is the proper posture.
Correct.
For the Jewish prayers.
Correct.
That is a proper posture. So that's why people feel comfortable doing that. I would prefer to do the Orans position than to hold somebody's hand if I had a choice.
Yes.
But the minute I do the Orans position, somebody grabs my hand.
Right.
So I just kind of keep my hands folded. I always say, could we please follow the book? Look, I didn't write the book. And I'm just trying to say to people, if we're going to do liturgy well, we have to know that we have to do it well. We have to do what's on the page. Mm-hmm. We don't do what's on the page and we take a license with the page. Now, nobody knows what's on the page to begin with. Mm-hmm. If we're just doing hither and yon. The other part of that is the folks who take it to the extreme and have to do every single thing on the page, or we get into trouble there too. It's a funny place the church is in right now. And you don't know who's where.
Right.
You say something, it's like, oh dear, I said something wrong. So I hope you haven't gotten any crazy feedback from people who are saying.
Oh, not too bad. I mean, I did not moderate or not approve any comments. So
that's good.
So I moderate all the comments before they go up originally, but I approved every comment. I just moderate it because I don't want to have to deal with any curse words or anything going up. So I make sure that I read everything before I approve it. But I approved every comment that came in. Lots of differing opinions on Twitter, but I would say 90% of the people agreed that they don't want to hold hands. A small 5% said, well, but I like to hold hands with my family, to which I say, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because then you're praying with your spouse or your child. That makes perfect sense. Absolute perfect sense. And then there were a few people that are just all like, well, but I like it. I think it's great because we're praying in community. Well, who says you have to hold hands to feel like you're part of a community? Like, I don't understand that.
What have you just been doing the entire time?
Right.
Hello, this is a community. And see, again, there's still a mindset, and you're a little younger to have even, I don't think you've ever encountered it per se. Growing up, I encountered that business of you go to Mass, but you plug in, sort of like, but I'm in my own little cubicle with God, but I'm here with a whole bunch of people. And I think the older pre-Vatican II Mass sort of fed that philosophy. So,
which I understand, because I've been to a couple like Latin Mass in that way, and I get now why people say that, because I have absolutely no idea what's going on. You just sit there and I understand why, and you see it pictures or it's depicted in movies of they're just praying the rosary.
Right.
Like, I get that, because that's basically all you can do.
Right. That's very, very true. And that's how their full conscious and active participation is. Everything happens up there, and you are here, and you're in the midst of the beatific vision. That is not what Vatican II has put forth. That's not what we call the Novus Ordo.
Right.
And I'm a Novus Ordo girl, but I'm not I always say that. I'm a Novus Ordo girl, but I am not a burlap and clown person. I don't do that either. I
can come on the show another time and pontificate about certain songs that I wish would never be played again. We're gonna avoid that today, but let me tell you, I have a pretty high soapbox.
I wonder if our lists would be similar.
I bet they would.
Yeah, because I just pontificated a couple of weeks ago on a song that I did not want anything to do with for my first communions this year because I'm in a new place.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I may have offended like 17 people with it, including panelists, when I said, that song will be done over my dead body.
The song of St. Francis. There, I said it.
No, I'm talking more children-y things called Banner Over Me is Love.
That's a preschool like PSR CCD song, not a mass song.
Yeah, I know. That's whole, but
it's a cute song. It's great for summer camp Bible study. Cute or vacation Bible school. So cute for that, but
not for anything else.
That's I'm a really big fan of not dumbing things down for kids. Obviously, we have to put it at their level because an 8-year-old can't understand the concepts that an adult can. I think that part of the things that we're going through here in the United States is that we're trying to dumb so much stuff down for kids, whether it's about church or not, that kids are not learning how to think independently anymore. So,
I agree. I totally agree, and I will have you back because I want to have those discussions.
I wish that I had studied liturgy because I just have such a passion for the Mass. Like for me, that's my favorite part of every week. It's just the Mass. I think it's beautiful. And when it's well done, it's the most edifying experience a Catholic can have.
I agree. And what you may be hearing in the background is my dog.
Oh, so cute.
Who is telling me that you've reached the end of the show. And we didn't get to the other topics I wanted to get to. Darn. But I do want to close out with a little bit more of your book and stuff. So when you said the book is available June 1st. And again, what is the name of it so folks can look it up on Amazon?
It's The Catholic Drinking Guide to Homebrewed Evangelism.
And what exactly is in this book?
So I talk in the book about the history of all the beer brewing monks. I also talk about some stories of mine of going out and evangelizing at the bar. I give you some tips and tricks on how to evangelize, and then I give you some homebrew recipes for those of you who want to learn how to homebrew. So it's also a homebrew 101.
Oh, gee, I'm a little too old to do the homebrew, plus I don't drink beer, believe it or not. So
we can work on that.
Excuse me?
We can work on that.
Well, some have tried and some have failed miserably. I'm a wine girl. What can I tell you?
Hey, you know what? You can't fight what your taste buds prefer.
Exactly. But it's been fun having you here. And again, if you've got any feedback out there, folks, if you want Sarah back, let me know. And we'll get Sarah back with the whole crew, and that could get really interesting. But we would still like your feedback on anything you've heard today. Please don't kill me with the Our Father, because I do moderate this site as well. It is mondaymorningcatholic@gmail.com, facebook.com/mondaymorningcatholic. You can comment in the comment box at mondaymorningcatholic.net or the voice feedback line, 774-955-0659. We will put all of these different things on the honorable mention section so you can know how to get a hold of Sarah and see what she's doing. And please watch her on SQPN's Catholic Weekend every Saturday morning. It's at 10:30 to 11
Yeah, 10:30 to 11:30 Eastern time.
Eastern time, which will be Eastern Daylight Time after.
Next weekend, crazy.
Yes, please, next weekend, put your clocks back on Saturday or you're all going to miss Sunday morning. That's our public service announcement for this week.
Bring forward.
Forward, folks, definitely. Well, Sarah, I'm so glad you could bail me out.
No, this was a pleasure, and you're awesome, and I'm really honored to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you. We invite you back most definitely, and we invite all of you back next week. Keep going with your Lenten sacrifices, and please pray for everything that's going on in this world today. It's a mess out there, and God needs to help us to get a handle on it. So, for Sarah Vabulas and myself, Joanne Mercier, thank you for being with us this week. We will see you. God bless, and ciao for now.